Welcome back. We are on episode 11.
Yes, and you're listening to Stephanie and Kelly with Realtor Talk. Hello. We have a
New setup.
new setup. That is true. We had our superhero of AV. His name is Bill. Hi, Bill.
Bill gave us some of course, so kindly. He just gives us his feedback and said we just look a little hostagey.
That was like literally,
We've
we've laughed about this already like 17 times.
Because it's so spot on.
Because he literally said, he asked if we could change our background because it looked hostagey.
It is so spot on.
Yeah, so we changed corners, but I think we're going to wallpaper this wall.
We for sure are actually going to wallpaper that wall.
Okay.
All right.
Anyway, on to important business. We're covering a very important topic today.
Very, very, very important topic
and
today.
we have been waiting to chat about this. And we finally feel like it's a good time to do so.
Yeah, we took some time to like really dive deep and
think about life.
Exactly. And just make sure that we are providing our listeners with just the utmost factual things.
Yes. Facts. Let's make the
what is this? Yeah, what is this podcast? What are we talking about?
We're talking about the NAR. We're going to call it the NAR, National Association of REALTORS lawsuit. Okay? Okay.
We've been sued. Me and Stephanie are thrown in the towel. We got to go apply we're going to apply.
No, I'm going to work at Nordstrom probably. No, that's Kaylin always says when she's having a hard day. She's like, I'm just going to go work at Bloomie's. They must pay better commission than Nordstrom. I'm not sure. I'll have to look into that my retirement.
So this is all over the headlines that apparently big news with these real estate commissions. The National Association of Realtors.
You know what? And first and foremost, let me say this is our disclaimer. Kelly and I are not attorneys. This may surprise you.
Wow.
But we are not attorneys, and nor are we giving legal advice. We'll have our attorney on here shortly.
Yes.
to give you some free advice. But and these are the proposed settlement changes that are likely to take place mid-July. Okay? Proposed changes.
Yes.
All right?
And we are here to give the facts of this settlement. And, damn well, we're going to have some opinions too.
Yeah, we're going to give some opinions.
Obviously. And so let's get started.
Go ahead. Kelly's going to read for us just a quick summary of why the lawsuit was actually put into place to begin with.
The suits, so that is plural. The lawsuits claim that NAR rules violate antitrust laws and inflate the fees paid to buyer's agents by requiring a listing agent to compensate a buyer's agent for listing a property on the MLS. NAR argues that the lawsuits misrepresent association rules as anti-competitive. The rules direct listing brokers to determine, in consultation with their clients, the amount of compensation offered to a buyer's agent in connection with their MLS listing. Further, NAR says buyer's agents are free to negotiate compensation with the listing broker that is different from what appears in the MLS. Neither NAR nor the MLS has any say in setting broker commissions.
Yeah. So, I mean,
let's dumb it down there.
We're going to dumb it down. That was a summary from the National Association of Realtors. But really what they were saying was that we had fixed pricing, set pricing, and that we were forcing people to pay buyers, brokers fees. And all of it is
misconstrued.
Completely nonsense. In my opinion, because we all know, like anybody that has any kind of common sense, that there has been for sale by owners for a cajillion years and nobody is forced to use a realtor, and everybody knows that commission is negotiable. That is why you are able to choose from multiple brokerages and multiple realtors. Nobody is forced to do anything. I don't know how that the NAR actually did settle on this. And we've listened to some really funny podcasts too from other realtors that have been hilarious. And it is kind of shocking. I think a lot of us are unhappy with the NAR settlement, that we feel like it was so false. How did we get to this point we don't know what kind of representation our attorneys were hired by the NAR.
I'll tell you one
apparently
thing.
not that great of ones.
There were no day-to-day agents in that courtroom.
No.
That's all I have to say, because
No.
I had a million and one arguments. So, and this was the part that was mind-boggling. So the way that a commission is paid is, okay, so just imagine I'm the listing agent, okay? I'm going to my seller's house. I have a conversation with my seller and say, hey, seller, my commission is, we're making up numbers here, 6%. What I do with that 6% is it is split with the agent who brings their buyer, not to mention, obviously, there's brokerage. There's a lot of hands in this cookie jar, right, of the 6% to that
You're
everyone.
talking about how people currently get paid.
Yes. This 6% commission that everyone thinks that
We might as well just say 10%.
we just take. Right?
10%. Let's just pretend the commission's 10%.
Okay, let's pretend
For
the commission,
argument's sake.
Okay, is 10%. Everyone just thinks that agent is taking 10% to the bank, and it's so much more. There's so much more that goes into that. However, the listing agent and their client, they determine how much they are willing to pay the agent that brings the buyer, and that whatever that is agreed upon is advertised in the MLS. So obviously, you see this house for sale, and you see what they are offering. So now all of these sellers are now suing the National Association of Realtors because were they claiming that they didn't know they were paying out the other agent, or they were mad that because they signed an agreement. So I always go over it in my listing agreement or my listing presentations in the sense of how it's paid out. But that is how it is paid. And so now with this new settlement,
just so people get an idea of now how we're currently operating and how we'll be operating until mid-July, the payout on the buyer's side of the listing, right, is advertised in the MLS. That is currently how it is done. That's how we know what our payout is when we go to submit an offer, all those things. Now, through this lawsuit, these are the 4 things that essentially are happening. Compensation now, coming mid-July, will be moved off of the MLS. Okay, so I'm going to read this to you. NAR has agreed to put in place a new rule prohibiting offers of compensation on the MLS, underlined. Offers of compensation could continue to be an option. Consumers can pursue off MLS through negotiation and consultation with real estate professionals. And sellers can offer buyer concessions on MLS. For example, concessions for buyer closing costs. This change will go into effect mid-July 2024. Okay, so that's point 1. Going to go down the list here. This is a big topic that we're going to get into in a little bit. Written agreements for MLS participants acting for buyers. This is one that Kelly and I are super excited about.
yes.
Again, these are the things that changed due to the lawsuit. While NAR has been advocating for the use of written agreement for years in this settlement, we have agreed to require MLS participants working with buyers to enter in written agreements with their buyers. This change, again, will go into effect mid-July. So let me, again, reiterate that now, moving forward, buyers will have to enter into an agreement with their realtor. Yeah, we're super excited about that one, and we'll explain why. Settlement payout, NAR, and then this is the other thing. This is what NAR has agreed to pay. NAR would pay $418 million over approximately 4 years. This is a substantial sum, and it will be incumbent on NAR to use our remaining sources in the most effective way possible to continue delivering on our core mission. NAR will not change membership dues for 2024-2025 because of this payment. That I was surprised about.
I was very shocked by that.
And again, this is something I also want to stress. Through this entire time, NAR has also said that they are denying any wrongdoing. Okay, and that's what Kelly and I are saying is we have known from Jump Street that there has been no obligation to use a realtor or to pay anyone. You can't force somebody to do that. I don't know how this was proved in court. That seems crazy.
Well, even too in the sense of, okay, so if sellers are claiming that it had to be that they were unaware that they were paying it. But really quick, it's okay, if you hire a contractor.
And that's the problem though, too, I will say, is there are some crazy brokerages I've heard stories about, in documentaries.
I only know our listing agreements that are very broken.
Well, and I think how 90% of realtors operate, but there are brokerages I've heard that, you might be going in, there could be certain schemes and plots of people going into elderly person's home, getting them to sign this paperwork, telling them they're going to do X, Y, and Z, and then they have no idea what's happening. I have no idea. I can only imagine. But NAR has long maintained, and we continue to believe, that cooperative compensation and NAR's current policies are good things that benefit buyers and sellers. They promote access to property ownership, particularly for lower and middle income buyers who can have a difficult enough time saving for a down payment. With this settlement, NAR is confident it and its members can still achieve all those goals. So that's the overall summary of the outcome of this settlement. So
let's talk about how it's going to affect our day-to-day or our clients' lives in that sense. So with the buyer agreement, let's
go back.
I am super. So we know the first one, there's no compensation advertised on the MLS. Does that mean that I can't call the agent and ask, hey, are they offering a co-op? There's so many other ways that it's going to be handled.
We are definitely by mid-July going to figure out how we are going to advertise on in a separate way how the buyer compensation is being paid. Nobody is going to work for free. That's not going to happen. No, especially with buyers having to enter into a formal contract with their realtor. Everybody's going to need to know what the compensation is being offered of by the seller.
Yes.
And I strongly believe that sellers are going to continue to offer compensation.
For sure.
Because if they're not, then they're just going to receive offers from realtors asking that they pay it. So then it's literally like you're creating an extra hurdle, an unnecessary hurdle for a realtor and their buyer to go through. If you're not offering it, now they just have to negotiate it. Like, okay, let's just make this more of a hassle for everybody.
There's so much room for error in this entire thing that they're, it's going to be, I think it's going to be a solid year of adjusting. And I think that the good agents are going to make it through. And I think that one positive thing is that it might wean out some of, all the Tom, Dick, and Harrys out there with their licenses.
That's so true. Can we talk about that? That I do think that this settlement, because mainly I think when agents were when they first start out in the business, I think one of the easiest things for them to do is to pick up a buyer and bring them to a few properties and hope they buy one, and then they kind of fumble through the process. I think agents entering into the business, I think this is going to really affect them in that way. And I think it's also going to have a huge effect on like the lead generation companies that advertise buyer leads. Because again, let's go back. You cannot show homes now, come mid-July, let's say, to buyers without a buyer agreement. You're not going to go with some stranger that you literally have never met.
Yeah, you hit I'm interested on Zillow and you met them at the front door.
Yeah, and again, this is one reason that Kelly and I are super excited about this outcome of it, because I know even I have lost deals because somebody's aunt was going to use me, let's just say, and then they got ants in their pants and they just went through this robot on a website and met some random person at the property that they thought was the listing agent, and then they happened to buy it with them. That kind of thing I think is going to go away, and I'm super happy about that.
Yeah. So when you're a buyer and you want to go and see a house, it's not going to be, like Stephanie said, as easy as just hitting I'm interested, which is, honestly, maybe might suck for the buyer who has ants in their pants, but it is amazing for realtors because, again, especially realtors who work as hard as me and Stephanie do and who put so much time and effort into it. What other profession is there to where you get up and you're going to go run all around town and you're going to do basically all of this work with no tie or no like official agreement to anything? They can literally call someone else the next day and it's just it. That is, to me, has always been mind-blowing. And the fact that there's never, because we sign obviously listing agreements with our sellers. That is a legally binding agreement. And that is, again, like that at least like solidifies like, okay, this is, I'm going to get paid if I do my job and this and that. Whereas with a buyer's agent, you never really had that security. And it's so important that we do because, and take this as for buyers too. Buyers, now is your time to interview agents because you're not going to just go and sign anything. Maybe now you won't feel as, obligated to use your aunt's, sister's wife or whatever it may be.
Right.
Because your aunt's sister's wife might not be in the business anymore because of this lawsuit. So like those smaller scale, I don't want to say smaller scale, but those agents who don't
take it
seriously, it's going to be hard for them because even me, I mean, I'm starting, and I know you are too, Stephanie, I'm starting to have these buyer these buyer agreement meetings with my buyers now to prepare me for July. And again, I'm so thrilled to use it because I don't want to work with anyone who doesn't want to work with me.
100%. It's like dating somebody that doesn't want to be with you. Like,
Yeah.
I don't, and I always tell my clients that whenever we sign any agreement, like, listen, the last thing I want to do is list your home or be your agent on the buy side if you don't want to work with me. I mean, I will say, like, most people want to work with me.
Well, yes. I mean, obviously. But yeah, there's this couple where I'm like, sometimes I want to be
honestly,
like,
we're not always a match for everybody. But that, and I really do think our job is almost like dating. Like,
but it's not us, it's them.
No, but seriously, you want to date somebody that you have similar interests with or that you like to hang out with.
You totally attract clients like you. And I honestly, to an extent, because there are some I would not claim.
No, but I mean, yes, that's true. And, we don't have to work with everybody either. I think that this agreement is going to be so great for us deciding right at Jump Street, are we a good match to proceed in this journey of home buying for you?
For sure. I think it's so great for everyone. It's going to be definitely an adjustment, and there's going to be probably a bunch of different scenarios or paths we take until we figure out what works. But I think ultimately in the end, this is a phenomenal thing for the industry.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of
let's talk about what's in the media. Let's get to the fun stuff.
Oh my God.
I was so annoyed. So me and Stephanie were responsible, and we took time to dig through this stuff before we just impulsively jumped on the podcast. But when I saw CNN realtors slash commissions, home prices are set to lower by 6% due to realtor commissions. I'm sorry, but please tell me what seller would, all right, just say I say that their house is worth $600,000. We can list for $600,000. And the next day they wake up and they're like, you know what? I don't need an agent. I'm going to sell by owner. But because I'm not using an agent, I know she said 600 yesterday, but I'm going to list for 550. I'm going to do that because I'm not using an agent.
That would never friggin' happen. That is what's so crazy. And I'm going to read one of the most, can I say it, asinine comments that I have heard
made
beyond.
And who made this comment?
I'm gonna refrain.
I wish I had a good accent to do.
No, there's not. Okay, our beloved president made the statement on a typical home purchase that this is due to the NAR settlement.
Yeah,
okay?
this was Joe Biden's public comment to the press about the NAR lawsuit and settlement. Ready? Okay. Here we go.
For the first time that Americans can negotiate lower commissions when they buy or sell their home.
For the first time?
That's okay. That is, again, false point number one.
Yes.
Hello, can I say it again? FSBO, for sale by owner, been around forever. You can do whatever the heck you want. He continues, on a typical home purchase that alone could save folks an average of $10,000 on the sale or purchase. Biden added, I'm calling on realtors to follow through on lower commissions to protect home buyers. To protect home buyers. Let me say that again. No seller. We have said this, it's mind-blowing that somebody could actually believe that this is true, but no home seller is going to lower the price of their home because they are not hiring a realtor. No. They would never do that. And we know from working in the industry, most for sale by owners are way overpriced to begin with. They are literally usually the highest priced people in the market, which is crazy. And that's because they have no consultant telling them what they should be priced at.
What they're doing. Yes.
That's what's so crazy. I can't believe that somebody would actually believe that.
And it's so frustrating for me because they're up here on this, to protect home buyers. This is literally single-handedly the worst thing that could happen to home buyers if buyers agents go away. So you mean to tell me, and again, this is the most market climate. I don't even know if that's the right phrase I'm putting it, but you know what I mean when I say we've been in a seller's market since COVID. It's been crazy, and it's been a lot longer than anybody really, anticipated. And the moment the market shifts, you don't think that sellers are going to be willing to, they think that sellers always think I'm paying a commission. Okay, buyers are the only ones that bring money to the table, and that you wouldn't have a commission to pay without the buyers'
I
money.
would like to argue, in my opinion, buyers have been paying the commission for years, for both sides actually, because again, they are the only ones bringing money to the table. Without the buyer, the deal doesn't happen and nobody gets paid. And again, usually in any environment, it's the way that it shows up on the settlement statement. It shows on the settlement statement, which is the statement you get at closing showing debits and credits to both sides of the buyer and seller. The commission shows up on the seller side. That's just the way it goes and why they believe that they're the ones paying. Now, also, let me add that sellers have been making hand over fist money in recent years, selling their homes for massive profits because of how high the home prices have gone. So that's what's so crazy. They're the ones complaining, and they are the ones that are even going to continue to benefit. It's mind-blowing.
Well, yeah. And also too, and I actually was like full circle. Last week I was on the phone with my financial advisor, and we were talking about just obviously investing and all your assets, and when you take money out or this and that, and there's always you have to spend money to make money.
Yeah,
you have to spend money to make money, and you're selling an asset, probably one of the biggest ones in your life or whatever. It's a big deal,
and it's probably it's your home that you're selling has probably made you more money than you did in the stock market. You pay,
how many fees did you pay in that sense? And it's like, what can you make that type of return on investment for? What?
For free. You want to just make it for free, and you want nobody to consult or help you or nothing. And again, that's what's so funny is like we've gone through this process countless times. You want to handle your biggest investment of your life by yourself. You want to do that? That seems crazy to me. But I mean, whatever.
But again, everyone's always had their right
to each their own. That's the thing. If like you're confident and you want to do it by yourself, God bless you, do it by yourself.
Yes.
And that is just not the average Joe. Like not everybody can and should do that.
Well, and again, painting the picture in a world with no buyer's agents. Okay, so you want this first-time home buyer who has no idea what the word escrow means. I mean, literally, that is sometimes, point zero. The
earnest money,
yes,
inspections.
You expect them to
final walkthroughs.
Yes. Do you want them to go directly to the listing agent, who is literally their fiduciary duty to their client is to net them the most possible money possible? And now home buyers are going to be so helped out by this lawsuit and settlement. Now they have to go directly to the person who's representing the seller on the other side.
That's crazy. It's crazy. And I want to point out too, housing affordability in the U.S. has hit a 39-year low in 2023. And I mean, again, that strictly is because of the lack of inventory and inflation, that home prices are what they are. We need more inventory, and I mean also the cost of building being as expensive as it is contributing. And on top of that, people are staying in their residences because interest rates are so high. So that is literally all of those things combined are why we are in the situation that we are in. Nothing to do with realtors.
Right.
That's why it's so laughable. But to each their own. Other topics that we want to talk about. You know what else I want to bring up actually is the safety for those.
Oh yeah.
So, and again, if somebody was a for sale by owner, they would probably know how this would work. But I picked up a client recently that I think was thinking about doing a for sale by owner. And one of the reasons she needed a realtor was because she did need licensed realtors to be able to show her home. She works all the time. Lovely, lovely human. I actually adore this seller that I'm working with right now. And that was one of the biggest reasons that she realized that she couldn't sell her home by herself, was because she works all the time. People are going to, especially with people that work from home now. I used to always work strictly the weekends for showings. It was like I rarely had showings during the week. Ever since COVID and the amount of people that work from home and can get away, they schedule showings during the week as much as they can. So
I'd argue I have more during the week than the weekends these days.
That could be. And so that being said, if there was no buyer's agents, there would be no licensed individual to show the home. You think the south side in the suburbs is going to show your home endlessly? That's just not going to happen. Nobody has that kind of time to be able to do. So can you imagine you're doing for sale by owner or something like that, and you're letting people just walk through your home endlessly, or you're having to coordinate all these showings yourself? it's not feasible.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's definitely something to think about. There was something else that my microphone, sorry. With sellers and how they, like, again, back to just the mindset of sellers. When the market shifts even a little bit, they are going to be the first. They want to sell their property. They're going to be the first to offer a buyer's agent. I think this is just very, very around this type of market because we are in a seller's market. But at the end of the day, the sellers, I'm sorry, I lost this. Never mind. Keep going. I lost it. Lost my thought, guys. Sorry.
That's okay. Number 13, do you want to talk about that, Kelly? Because I think that would actually be a good, how will buyer brokers get paid now? Like, let's just say, again, I genuinely think moving forward for the future that this dust is all going to settle and it's going to continue to be business as usual.
I agree.
I think sellers are going to offer buyer compensation and
the good agents will rise above.
Yeah, I think that's totally how this is going to be going forward. And for those of you that might run into a home that you as a realtor are trying to help your clients buy and there currently is no buyer compensation being offered, you of course are going to write the offer with compensation included into it. But these are the options that you have in order to be paid. So I would just say these three.
So fixed fee commission paid directly by consumers, concession from the seller, portion of the listing broker's compensation.
Mm-hmm. And so when we say concession from the seller, like you could ask for instead closing cost credits in order to pay that commission. So that is an option too if it does happen to be run into.
Yeah, and again too, this is all just about like the transparency. It's going to be different for every property. You might not run into that part at all, and the property that you're interested in, they're offering off the MLS, of course, but they're offering a co-op to where all these things, we don't know what is going to happen and what the standard practices are going to be yet. This is going to be a little bit of a curve and an adjustment to the industry.
And we have a lot of hypotheses that we think there could be a different website that's developed in order to display what buyer agent compensation is. And another thing that I want to touch base on too, if you have a quick moment, Miss Kelly.
Oh, of course. I always got a moment for you.
What happened in the 90s and why we have buyer's agents to begin with.
That was my thought.
Okay. I'm so glad I helped you.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So back in the day, there was the way that you would buy a house before technology and the MLS. Each real estate office had a book of their own listings. Okay. So as a buyer, you would walk into different real estate offices and you would see what their listings were. And if you didn't like those listings, you would go to the one down the street and see different listings. Whereas now we have the MLS, so we have access to all listings. But back then it was problematic because you would walk into a brokerage and see what type of listings they have. And then they would have an agent that was there that was like, hey, I can help you buy that listing. And that's where dual agency came to play. Dual agency is when you are on both the listing side and the buyer side. And so that's where that came to play. And what do you know? History always repeats itself, I guess. There was a lawsuit in the 90s that, here, I could actually, okay. It started because of another class action lawsuit back in the early 90s. Buyers and sellers sued Adena Realty in Minnesota because buyers were working with agents in their firm on the purchase while other agents in the firm listed the property. Today, this is what we call dual agency. At the time, there was no buyer agency. The agent working with the buyer in that situation was technically a subagent to the seller. The issue in the case was there were no rules for the buyer's agents, and disclosure was not happening to explain how representation worked with both buyers and sellers. So again, buyer agency was put into place to protect the buyer because of these lawsuits of them having no one in their corner. They had no leverage. They had no one up. And now it's almost like we're going back in time here is what it feels like to me.
Yeah, no, it's senseless.
It's just it's so ridiculous. It's like sellers.
And I think there's a lot of drama surrounding it. And like I said, I really do think that the dust is all going to settle probably after summertime, maybe beginning of the next year. And it's going to be business as usual. And again, there's a lot of positives in it for us too. like we said, the buyer agreements. And then I think too, the quality of agent, I hope is going to be better too, because I think a lot of part-timers and people that don't take it seriously are going to quit.
I feel like it's more establishing. I think it's a very positive step. There's definitely some kinks that need to be worked through, but I think it's a really positive step, and I'm really excited to not feel obligated to waste my time anytime,
Yeah.
buyers want to just drag me around town all day. But no, it's honestly gonna be really good. It's transparency for the buyer, and I think that's the majority of what I wanted to say.
That's
Sellers,
all I wanted to say.
Yeah, what are we taking away from here? So the two changes was the compensation and
the compensation is no
buyer's
longer
agreement.
advertised in the MLS. That's part of the settlement. Poor NAR has to pay a crap ton of money.
And they said that our dues weren't going up, which
they said for 2024, 2025.
That's so true.
Yeah. So
2026.
And then buyers now have to have written agreements with the realtors. So, and that's the one that we're actually excited about. So again, I think this is going to be fine. Everybody needs to ignore the fake news and rise above and calm down and breathe. It's all going to be happy
keep helping
days.
home buyers out there.
It's gonna be happy days ahead. Okay.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions, let us know. And anything legal, we can always, point you to Jason. But
yeah, we are not attorneys. We are not attorneys.
We are not attorneys. Do not listen to us. We actually, in fact, know nothing. Do not listen to us. All right. There's our disclaimer.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
Bye.